So let's go ahead and get started. So just going to take a few minutes, and I want to talk a little bit to you this evening about edge computing and really how that's helping accelerate business transformation and what Lenovo is doing around bringing edge computing to our customers. So just a little bit of background on what is edge computing when we use that term, right? What is the edge, right? The edge, to me, the simplest way I've had it explained, and this is the definition I like to use, is anytime data exists outside the four walls of a data center, right? So it is all around us, right? It is the temperature sensor on your Nest thermostat. It is information collected by the onboard computers in your car. It is all the unseen technology when you go to a retail store. Um, it is in each windmill that you make pass, on a wind farm, right? It's all over the place. And it's where the data lives, right? It's where the data originates. So if you think about it, this is a lot of this, really all of it is being driven by the Internet of Things, right? So you have a multitude of different connected devices, right? You can see there everything I mentioned. You have cars, wind generation, power plants, robotics in manufacturing, your personal cell phone, right? All of these things generate just loads and loads of data, right? And sometimes, even something is routine in our daily lives is taking a flight on an airplane. It's astounding just how many petabytes of data just one flight can actually generate. So what we do with Edge IT then is we work to move the processing power, or at least some of the processing power, closer to where that data is being generated, right? So these idea of connected devices and this growth of data being generated is just going to continue, right? They're saying that by 2025, right, we could see 10 times the amount of data that we see today, right? And connectivity, being bolstered by the 5G rollout and just really increasing the speed that data can travel is going to really help increase that as well. So then, of course, once you have all of this data, right, you have to do something with it, right? And that's where your core IT infrastructure comes into place, right? You may be feeding the data into a analytics solution or some type of intelligence solution, some type of AI or a business intelligence application, right? So that your business can take advantage of that data that's generated to make quicker, smarter decisions, to optimize your manufacturing floor, to gain better insights into your customer base if you're maybe in the retail area, right? And there's all sorts of software partners you'll see that we partner with here at Lenovo to make that happen and to really allow you to capitalize on all of that data that's being generated. So I'm going to talk a little bit about retail because I think retail is a pretty easy vertical for a lot of folks to understand, right? Everybody goes out shopping, whether it's to your local grocery store, Target or Walmart, your local drugstore, etc. So I want to describe the retail setting as kind of the different houses of the business, so to speak, and I'll explain what we mean by that. You have what we call the front of the house, and this is the most visible aspect of the business, right? This is the part that you and I see as the customer. And then you have kind of the back of the house, which is more behind the scenes, inventory and supply chain and things of that nature. And then you have what we call out of the house. So in a retail setting, this is probably going to be folks like your suppliers, right, that you're actually getting product from. So, again, think of front of the house as, the actual storefront, the technology that customers interface with. back of the house may be a distribution center, things of that nature. And then, logistics and suppliers are what we really think of when we think of out of house. So another way we can kind of look at this is let's take something very simple, right? Very American. Um, Definitely a little less exotic than the food we're all eating right now. But look at something as basic as a hamburger, right? And you don't necessarily think about all of the components, all of the people and the suppliers that are involved when you actually go to, say, McDonald's or Burger King and purchase a hamburger, right? That those businesses are thinking about the different customers they have out there, right? There's different customer segments. There's all of the staff involved, right? Everything from the front line, the cooks, the cashiers, the IT staff that makes the entire ordering process and then relaying it back to the kitchen staff possible, right? You have all of the different elements of the product, right? And then, of course, all of the suppliers, bakers, farms, et cetera, that are actually supplying the raw materials to turn that into a hamburger, right? So there's a lot of different data and there's a lot of different costs associated with that. So, being able to harness that data to be able to, again, optimize, right? Maybe you have a few different suppliers for your buns, right? And you want to make sure that you are getting the best value out of the supplier you're getting, or maybe there's having a supply shortage and you need to shift to a different supplier. Being able to have that information at hand so that you can quickly make those decisions maybe one of the things to give your business a little bit of an edge over the competition, right? So again, when we think of the business value chain, looking at this kind of in a little bit different perspective, right? You have your end users, the consumers, the external endpoints. Again, in our hamburger example, if you've been to McDonald's or Taco Bell, a lot of the fast food chains recently, now, of course, with the pandemic, they're changing the way they do things a little bit, but you'll see a lot of the self-service kiosks being implemented, right? All around customer experience and being able to quickly order the products that you want and have that positive customer experience. Of course, you have your distributors, which are more of your external customers, if you want to think of it that way. And of course, these type of things really comprise what we call the front of house, right? You have your internal customers at endpoints. So manufacturing might be, or marketing, or finance, or operations. All of the different business units within your business that you would consider to be internal customers, right? So think of that as this is more the back of the house, right? And distributors can kind of span the gamut depending on where they are in the chain. And then, of course, as we talked about, your suppliers, your raw material are what we're really considering when we say out of house. So what this really builds to, right, is we want to talk about a data ecosystem, all of this data from all of these different components, being able to empower your business to, again, make smarter decisions, be more informed. So again, what we're looking at is the Internet of Things, different sources of data, and then really the idea behind edge computing that we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth is to take, a lot of times it's to take that kind of first round of processing, right? So, say you are doing a wind power generation farm, right? And you're collecting, turbine velocities and all sorts, and kilowatts of power generated, all sorts of data from the different windmills that you have as part of your farm. You may not necessarily really care about all the nominal data, right? As long as it's operating properly, the data that's generating may not be of most use. What you may be more interested in, and what your AI or big data analytics system may be really looking for, is the anomalies, right? So edge computing can help be that first round of processing to pick out what data is going to really benefit your big data and AI systems, and kind of filter out the other noise, so to speak. And really why that's helpful is you're then not saturating the connectivity between where your edge computing device lives and your data center where your AI solution may be housed, right? So, edge computing, again, in the windmill example, you may not have, the 10 gigabit connectivity, or 1 gigabit connectivity, or even 50 megabit connectivity out to each windmill, right? You may be relying on a slower 4G LTE connection, right? You may be relying on different wireless technologies to transport the data from those edge devices back to a central point to transfer it back to your data center. So being able to kind of pare the data down and not saturate those links can become more and more important. So edge computing is really about what we call data temporality, right? This is a temporary kind of stopover where, again, we kind of remove the noise from it, and we really kind of sort through and pick out the data that we really want, right? And then, big data is about gaining velocity with the data, putting some meaning behind it, and then AI helps you visualize the data, again, to make smarter, more informed business decisions based on that. So some of the specific areas of edge computing that we are seeing and where it's useful, again, we talked a little bit about retail. The idea of a smart city or a smart campus, we'll talk a little bit about what Lenovo is doing in that area, as well as smart manufacturing. So again, talking with retail, right? Edge computing is really helping transform the retail experience. And in a lot of ways, a lot of this may be invisible to customers. Some of it may be, more customer facing, but really is helping their, increase the bottom line for a lot of our retail industry. And of course, with retail kind of taking the hit it is from the pandemic, right? This is one example of an industry that really can use all the advantages that it can leverage at this point. So, technology to help enable stores become more efficient with increased automation, whether it be for loss prevention, automation around purchasing and checkout, automation around supply, right? Products that have RFID tagging or shelves that have sensors built into them to be able to determine stock levels and things of that nature. Minimize waste. So, we have some retail customers out there that Lenovo's worked with to, modernize their refrigeration systems throughout their entire store to make sure that that's all being monitored so that, if a particular refrigeration unit falls out of spec, of temperature, it alerts them so that can be taken care of quickly before any of the food items might spoil as a result of that. Again, I mentioned loss prevention. And again, create unique customer experiences. So we have a large grocery chain that we've worked with extensively in Europe. So if anybody in the States is familiar with Food Lion, they operate mostly here on the East Coast. But their parent company, which is Delhaize, Ahold, based in Europe, we've worked with them to implement what I think is a pretty neat customer experience. So over there, you can actually download an app to your smartphone, and you can input your grocery list, so all the items you need in the store. And if you open the app when you arrive to the particular location that you're going to be shopping at, it will actually order the items on your grocery list in order of how you would naturally navigate the aisles through the store. So it minimizes the, oh, I forgot that I have to, I'm already at one side of the store, I have to go all the way back to the other side. It puts it all in order, so it creates a more efficient experience for the customer and helps drive that positive customer experience. So some neat stuff that we can do. And again, as I mentioned, right, a lot of this stuff is really behind the scenes that you may not even see as the customer. In terms of smart cities and smart campus, what we're doing there, we're doing a lot in terms of video technology, right? So, and this is also being used in spaces like retail as well, where video analytics, right? So actually taking video and actually leveraging and generating data from that, whether it be facial expressions or facial recognition. And again, you know, think of retail when you think of video. A lot of times people automatically think, oh, it's, you know, the only place for video in retail is for loss prevention, right? Well, there's actually software companies that we've partnered with out there now that can do things such as read facial expressions. So there's a really neat technology that I've seen now where the shelves on a store actually have cameras built into them, and it actually reads facial expressions. So if you know you want to judge how customers react to product placement or maybe even pricing, right? You can get data on, hey, a customer walked up to this shelf where this particular product is, and you can see that they glanced down and maybe saw the price tag, and you can judge their reaction, and it will actually categorize it as you know, being surprised or being happy or being upset, and you can make decisions again based on, you know, just the facial feedback that up to this point, you know, we haven't been able to glean data from that, but we can today, right? Again, you know, in terms of campuses, transportation, you see a lot of this with intelligent transportation systems and being able to monitor traffic and being able to relay that to, you know, not only, you know, signage on the sides of the roads, but also now into, you know, map applications, right? And into the actual navigation systems of cars. And of course, you know, a lot of this also has to do with encryption, security, body-worn cameras with law enforcement, things of that nature. So we're doing a lot in this space as well. So as I mentioned, you know, we talked about smarter cities, we talked about smart retail. We're doing stuff with healthcare and signage and warehouses, et cetera. So here is just kind of an idea of all of the different application partnerships that Lenovo is active in. So you see some market leaders there: Red Hat, Microsoft, Ubuntu, SAP, Nutanix. And then there's also smaller partners, and I say smaller, right? They may not be as well known, but companies such as StoreMagic, Scale Computing, and Pivot3. You know, we really pride ourselves in partnering with a very wide, diverse, best of breed solution providers, so that whatever your need in your particular industry or company or vertical is, you know, we can find something that's going to fit that need, and, you know, solve any business challenges that you're looking to solve with it. So, you know, we have those particular partnerships. And then in terms of devices, right, you have your traditional data center devices, of course, servers, storage, high performance computing, platforms that we use for AI. You know, you might think, you know, that's pretty much where Lenovo plays, but we are now moving more into this area of edge computing, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about our edge server that you see down there at the bottom. But even transitioning onto our client device side of the house, right? So we see customers leveraging tiny PCs, our ThinkCenter Tiny and ThinkStation Tiny offerings. We now have an even smaller footprint offering, that's the ThinkCenter Nano, which is roughly about the size, a little bit bigger than a deck of cards. And then we have specifically built IoT gateways that may have additional serial connections for sensors and peripherals to plug into. They may be built to be in more of a ruggedized environment, things of that nature. But so we have a wide, increasingly wide portfolio of edge compute devices. And again, I'm going to concentrate in talking a little bit about the edge server. So this is what we call our ThinkSystem SE350. And our engineers designed this system from the ground up to be able to provide server class compute power, server class connectivity, and even going beyond that, but to be able to put that compute power close to the edge where it's going to be needed. So of course, taking a server out of a data center and putting it in a windmill or in the back office of a McDonald's or maybe even inside of a semi truck, right, comes with its own set of unique challenges that we had to really look at and come up with new and innovative ways to solve. So you could have high heat, vibration, dust, right? If this thing is in a manufacturing floor, all sorts of things you have to think about. So we've built this to be a very rugged machine. It can withstand continuous temperatures up to 55 degrees Celsius, which, if I remember off the top of my head, I want to say that's about 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So this thing can run in a pretty continuously warm environment, up to 95% humidity continuously. It has different shock and vibration certifications, so it can be mounted directly to a machine on a manufacturing floor that's actually constantly operating and providing and causing vibrations and things of that nature. And in a high dust environment, we offer an optional dust kit that will actually encapsulate the system and protect it from any dust that may make its way in. Another thing to think about is a lot of times in these edge environments, you're not going to have an IT staff on site, right? You're not going to have an IT person riding shotgun in every semi in your fleet. So management becomes very key, right? So our full suite of xClarity remote management tools is built inherently into the system design, makes it very, very easy to manage. And we'll talk a little bit more. You see there it mentions activation. I'll talk a little bit more about that here just in a second when we talk about some of the security that we've built into this system, right? And if anybody else is watching the cameras of some of the other attendees there, you'll see Rusty, who's one of our other Lenovo folks. He's actually got an SE350 physically there in his hand, so you can get an idea just based on him holding it, just how small this particular system is, right? And there you see he slid the lid off pretty easily. In terms of accessibility and serviceability, one of these is just as easy to service as one of our full-size rack servers, right? So in the event something does need to be replaced or serviced, from a standpoint of ease, very, very easy to take care of this system. So one of the things, though, that represents kind of a unique challenge with a system this size is all around physical security, right? It'd be very easy for someone to walk up to this, unplug or cut a couple cords and walk away with it, right? It's a little bit harder when you're talking about an actual rack mount server that's physically, screwed into a rack, right? You're not going to wheel a whole rack out of a data center without somebody noticing. So a couple of the unique things we've built into this system are around security. So the system actually operates based off of an activation key. So think about when you buy a copy of Microsoft Windows or subscribe to Office 365, you have to have an activation key, right, in order to verify that you've legally purchased the software and are entitled to its use. We've done something similar here. So unless you order it a certain way, an SE350 will actually ship from our factory in Monterrey, Mexico in an unactivated state. And when it arrives at your site or the customer site, whatever, wherever it may be going, you actually have to walk it through an activation process. It's very, very simple. It can be done through our xClarity admin suite. It can be done by plugging a smartphone into one of the front USB ports. There's a couple different ways that you can introduce the activation key to the system. And once that key is there, it allows the system to fully boot up. It allows it to be fully functional. Once that is done, using the system BIOS, you can then customize settings to say that if somebody removes the cover, or even if it detects the system is physically being moved, we've actually built a different number of accelerometers into the actual chassis of the system so it can detect if it's actually being picked up and moved. You can set it so during either one of those type of events, what it will do is it will delete the activation key. which essentially renders the system inoperable, but it doesn't touch the data. All the data remains. A lot of customers, for added protection, like to install self-encrypting drives as an added layer of encryption here. So the system would remain in an inoperable state until the activation key is reintroduced to it, which therefore unlocks it and allows it to continue operating in its previous state. We talked about wired networking not always being available, right? So one of the things we've done here is you can see with the picture of the antennas on it. Of course, we have Wi-Fi connectivity, and we also have optional cellular. Right now, it's LTE 4G. We will be introducing 5G connectivity as the 5G train continues to pick up steam. And in case you do want to do wired, we have a full range of 1 gig and 10 gig, both optical and copper connectivity ports that are there for your convenience. Now, one of the neat things that our engineers did with all of the different connectivity options is there's actually onboard firmware that basically functions as a switch between all of the interfaces. So you can configure an SE350, you can configure its primary connection to, let's say, be either wired, Ethernet, or Wi-Fi. And if either one of those fails, the firmware will automatically switch the system over to 4G LTE connectivity, but it does so in such a manner that it is invisible to the operating system. So it really helps eliminate any chances of any hiccups or any interruptions from an application level that may cause a momentary lapse in connectivity for your application. Of course, as I pointed out with Rusty holding it up, the size of this is very, very important. You can see there compared to one of our standard 1U rack servers, it's about a quarter of the size. It does maintain the 1U height. However, it's just shy of 15 inches deep, and it is about half of a U wide. So we do offer multiple different mounting options for this. If you want to mount it on a wall, under a desk, if you want to do it in a rack, we offer 2 different rack mount options where you can mount them side by side. We have a bookshelf mount that literally stands one or multiple of them up on end together. So no matter where you can think to put a system, we can definitely accommodate that. But at all of this, the size, connectivity, management, being rugged, we realized that we couldn't sacrifice the compute power and storage availability that you're getting here. So you're looking at a system that is equipped with a Xeon D-class processor. We can do up to 8 M.2 storage devices in one of these. We do offer a model that has GPU, NVIDIA T4 GPU on board. So if you want to do hyper-converged, if you want to do if you want to run a database or any type of workload that you can run on a standard rack server, you can run on an SE350 when it's properly equipped. So, we talk, the SE350 really focuses on what we're doing in the hardware space. Again, some of the main partners we're working with around Smarter Edge. Pivot 3 is our main partner when we do video surveillance and security. In terms of our retail offerings, we're doing a lot in that space with Scale Computing. And if you want to do hyperconverged at the edge, we actually have a flavor of the SE350 that is now certified to run Microsoft Azure Stack HCI. So if you're a customer that uses Azure Public Cloud, or you are running existing Windows Server systems, SQL Server, if you're a Microsoft-centric customer, but you're looking to expand that out to the edge, we have a great solution for that now as well. So just kind of wrapping things up here, right? Again, kind of looking at the retail example, maybe you're a retail customer that does actually invest in the Azure ecosystem. We talked a little bit about our MX1021, which is our SE350 that is certified to run Azure Stack HCI. So, in terms of, you want something that can deliver better customer service, kind of give you a leg up on the competition, right? How are you going to do that? It may be through a loyalty app. As you see here, you may want to tie that to your supply chain. You want to tie multiple data sources together to be able to run analytics to allow you to make, again, better business decisions. If you're a retail chain, you have a lot of stores, cost is definitely likely to be an issue, right? You don't want to be spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for each store. You want the lowest cost platform that you can roll out in each store, but still provide all of these services. So something like that may look like, Azure Stack Hub for your hybrid cloud and your data center, doing Azure Stack HCI out of the stores to run all the platforms there. You may have our Think Center Nanos in each aisle to run analytics. We talked about displays that have cameras built in or have active interactive LCD screens to provide product data and things of that nature. So really just, the imagination is really becoming the limit when it comes to technologies that we can put out there to really change the customer experience, right? So, during the course of this presentation, I know I've thrown a lot at you. The best thing here is going to be work with your contacts at Groupware. They will pull in, the Lenovo personnel that can help you, folks such as Rusty, that know our products inside and out. They can help decide what the best solution is going to be, just from hearing what your business challenges are and what your goals are, right? And again, it doesn't have to be a technology goal. It may just be, hey, I want to have a leg up on my competition, right? We are here to help you make that possible with all of the different technology and solution offerings that we have. So, again, just kind of a closing thought, right? A lot of folks, a lot of industries were thinking that, this digital transformation is something that, they could plan for and would take place over a multitude of different years. Unfortunately, the pandemic has really pushed a lot of companies, a lot of industries really fast into that. So, Lenovo, we are weathering the storm, fairly well, probably better than any of our competitors are in terms of our ability to deliver solutions on time and continue to meet the needs of our customers. So, the time is definitely upon us to, use IT to transform your business and, really set yourself apart. So that is the end of my presentation. So